There's a kind of silence that comes after betrayal, not peaceful, but heavy, like the air right before a storm. You open your phone and there it is, the comments, the laughing emojis, the private messages soaked in fake concern and subtle cruelty. You read the lies. You feel the smirks behind the screens. For a moment, you wonder if they're right. If the world sees you as a joke, should you start believing it too? But then, something shifts. You stop reading, you stop explaining, and you begin rebuilding. But not in front of them, not in the comments, not in the DMIs, in reality. Where echoes die and truth echoes louder. This isn't just revenge, it's resurrection. Watch this video till the end. If you're done being mocked and ready to rise in silence, hit subscribe, like, and stay locked in. There's a moment that comes after the fall, not the loud crash. That's easy. That's expected. It's what follows. The eerie quiet. The thousand thoughts in your head screaming for a response. You want to explain yourself? You want to clarify? To scream the truth louder than their lies? And somewhere deep inside, you believe if you just say the right thing, they'll understand. They'll stop, but they won't. Because they were never listening. They weren't waiting for clarity. They were waiting to devour. To twist your pain into a punchline. To use your reaction as proof that you're exactly what they said you were. And that's the trap. The more noise you make, the more you feed their narrative. The more you explain, the more they ignore. It's like bleeding into an ocean filled with sharks and expecting empathy. You think staying silent means you lost, that it means they won, that by saying nothing you've surrendered your truth. But that's not what's happening. What's really happening is this. You're choosing to stop bleeding where it doesn't matter. You're choosing to protect your energy from people who are never worthy of access to it. And that choice, that intentional silence, is where the power begins. See? They expect the noise. They expect your anger. They're counting on it. Because it makes them feel important. But what they don't expect is your disappearance, your calm. Your decision to disappear from their stage and build something off script, that's when they panic. Because when you go quiet, they lose their hold. They realize they can't feed off your reaction anymore. Now they're just yelling into a void. And in that void, you start to hear something else. Your own thoughts, your own clarity. And suddenly, you're no longer fighting for the version of you they see. You're becoming the version they can't touch. This is not weakness. This is strategy. This is you stepping back from the noise so you can rise in a place where noise doesn't matter. This is you refusing to make your healing a public spectacle. This is you choosing growth over drama, depth over attention, reality over replies. Because silence, when it's intentional, is not absence. It's preparation. It's protection. It's power. So if they mock you for staying quiet, let them. If they misinterpret your stillness, let them. That's not your burden anymore. Your job isn't to defend who you are to people committed to misunderstanding you. Your job is to rebuild in the dark and return unrecognizable. And when you do, you won't need to speak. You won't need to reply. Your life will be the loudest thing in the room. You hear them laugh, and it cuts deeper than it should. Not because it's funny, but because somewhere in their laughter, here's something that sounds like truth. You think maybe they see something you don't. Maybe they're right. Maybe you are ridiculous for trying, for thinking different, for wanting more than what they've settled for. The kind of laughter doesn't echo, it clings. It lives. In your chest, makes you doubt every step you take after it. And the worst part? It doesn't always come from enemies. It's the people close to you. The ones who smile when you fail, who clap with stiff hands when you succeed, who tell you to be realistic when you start dreaming out loud. You start to believe you're wrong for wanting more, for trying to build something that doesn't fit into their world. But here's the truth. I'll never say out loud. They don't laugh because you're wrong. They laugh because they're scared you might be right. They see something in you they buried a long time ago. The courage to begin. The nerve to stand alone. The discomfort of taking risks they never took. You waking up early, working late, failing publicly, trying again. It reminds them of every chance they didn't take. Every dream they let die, quietly. And that kind of reflection is unbearable. So they mock. They joke. They label it as a phase. They call it delusion, because if they make you feel small enough, maybe they won't have to face how small their own world has become. Laughter is not about you. It's a shield. It's how they protect themselves from realizing they've accepted a version of life that stopped growing a long time ago. And watching you challenge that, it shakes something inside them. Not because you're failing, but because they know. Deep down, you just might make it, and if you do, they'll have to face the question they've been running from. Why didn't I try? That's the real reason they laugh. Not everyone, of course. But the ones who do, they aren't laughing at your failure. They're laughing to protect themselves from your future. Because if you become what they said was impossible, their excuses stop working. So keep walking. Keep building. Let the sound of their laughter remind you that you're doing something they never had the courage to do. And when the noise fades and the silence returns, you'll realize something powerful. They were never laughing at you. They were laughing at the part of you they wish they still had. You've been told you're too much, too emotional, it's too intense, too complicated. And over time, you start believing it. Start editing yourself, trimming pieces off your soul to make other people more comfortable. You mute your highs, soften your lows, rehearse your answers, practice your smiles. You learn to wear masks so well that sometimes even you forget what your real face looks like. But then one day the mask slips. You say something raw. You react without a filter. You show up as you actually are. Messy, real, loud, quiet, angry, vulnerable, and you feel it hit the room. Like a wave, people flinch. Some pull back. Some call it dramatic. Some call it broken. And that reaction stays with you. It makes you question everything, because no one ever told you that honesty could feel like punishment, that being yourself might make people look at you like you're unstable, that the world that keeps saying be authentic only wants it in filtered doses, the kind they can scroll past without discomfort. But listen carefully. That moment when you showed up raw, that wasn't weakness, that wasn't failure. That was truth breaking through the noise. That was your real self refusing to keep shrinking. You weren't broken, you were just real. You were just brave enough to stop pretending. Brave enough to stop performing. Brave enough to show a version of yourself that doesn't come with captions or touch-ups or rehearsals, and it scared them, because most people aren't living their editing, and when they see someone who's done playing along, it rattles something inside them. It's not your unfiltered self that's the problem. It's the world's addiction to pretending. You're not too much. You're just surrounded by people who are too used to less. Less emotion, less honesty, less presence. And when you offer something more, something raw, something alive, they panic. They retreat into the comfort of fake smiles and surface-level conversations. But don't confuse their reaction with a flaw in you. Their discomfort doesn't mean you need to change. It means you've tapped into a version of yourself they haven't met before. They don't know what to do with it. That version of you, the real one, that's the foundation now. Because once you see yourself clearly, without filters or noise or borrowed expectations, you can't go back. You can't keep living a lie to be digestible. You're not here to be acceptable. You're here to be real. So let them call it broken. Let them misunderstand your depth, your emotion, your intensity, because at least you're alive in your truth. Not sleepwalking through someone else's idea of you, and the day will come when that version of you, the one they called too much, becomes the exact reason you rise. You've seen it, haven't you? How quickly the warmth fades. How fast the messages slow down when you're not posting wins. How the same people who once flooded your comments with fire emojis and praise disappear the moment you stop performing. They used to DM you like they knew you. Now they don't even view your story, and it makes you question everything. You start wondering if you only mattered when you were shining. If their love was just a reflection of how well you played the part, how polished your posts were, how confident you looked, how entertaining your pain could be when it was wrapped in the right caption. But then something deeper hits you. They never really knew you. They knew the version of you that was easy to celebrate. They followed your momentum, not your humanity. And when that momentum slowed, so did their care. That's the kind of love you find online. It feels big until you really need it. It feels loyal until you break. It feels real until you're no longer useful. But here's what you need to understand: that love was never meant to hold you. It was never supposed to define your worth. Because anything that can disappear when you're at your lowest was never built on truth. And you can't keep building your self-worth on digital applause. You need to step back and look at who you are when there's no screen to hide behind, when the camera's off, when there's no audience clapping, when you're not trending, just breathing. That's where the real work begins. You build. In silence, you grow without validation. You face your own reflection without a filter. And slowly, the noise around you begins to matter less. Goes because you start becoming someone rooted in something deeper than attention. You become grounded, calm, whole. The kind of person who doesn't rise and fall with likes and comments. You stop measuring your worth by how often they check in. You stop needing digital affection to feel alive. Because the real you, the one who bleeds, breaks, heals, rebuilds, that version doesn't need to be liked to exist. They just need to be real. And that realness is untouchable, so let them vanish. Let them unfollow. Let them forget you when you're quiet. Because the people who only showed up for the highlight reel were never meant to stay for the full story. And the version of you that survives all of this, that version doesn't just live offline, it lives beyond reach. They hurt you. Let's not sugarcoat it. They ripped into your name, mocked your silence, threw your story into rooms you weren't even standing in. And the worst part? You heard about it all too late, when the laughter had already dried. And the damage had already been done. And now every part of you wants to stand back up and show them, to return louder, stronger, more polished, so you can rub your survival in their faces. You want to make them regret ever crossing you. You want them to see what they lost, what they broke, and how you rebuilt yourself. But let me ask you something real. Is your healing truly healing if it's still tied to them? See, when you're broken publicly, people treat your pain like content. Your name becomes a headline. Your breakdown becomes gossip. And if you're not careful, you start believing your comeback needs to be just as visible. A performance of recovery, flashy resurrection, but it doesn't. You don't owe the people who watched you bleed a front row seat to your recovery. You don't owe them clarity or closure or some dramatic moment where you prove you're doing better. Your silence is not weakness, it's power. And walking away without turning back, that's strength people don't know how to measure because it doesn't make noise. It doesn't demand applause, but it protects your peace. I know you've replayed every insult in your head. You crafted the perfect lines in the shower, wrote imaginary speeches that would shut them down, put them in their place. Hey, but here's the truth. Those lines may win the argument, but they won't heal you, because healing isn't about proving them wrong. It's about freeing yourself from needing to. You don't need to respond. You don't need to return. You don't need to show up for people who never showed up for you. You owe yourself more than a comeback. You owe yourself freedom. Freedom from waiting for them to see your worth. Freedom from performing your growth like a stage act. Freedom from carrying the burden of revenge when all your soul ever wanted was peace. And that kind of peace, the quiet, solid kind, only comes when you stop trying to win battles that no longer matter. Let them think you disappeared. Let them believe you stayed broken. Let them talk while you rebuild a life they'll never get to witness. Not out of spite, but out of respect for yourself, because the loudest move you'll ever make is not responding, not explaining, not returning, and finally realizing you owe them nothing. There comes a point where everything just stops. No calls, no messages, no invitations. The silence becomes a weight. And at first it feels like abandonment, like the world moved on without you, and no one even noticed. You sit there, surrounded by the noise of your own thoughts, wondering if you did something wrong. You replay conversations in your head, moments where you laughed, stood up for yourself, opened your heart. And you ask yourself, was that the moment they walked away? Do you want answers? You want explanations? But none come. Just quiet. And in that quiet, something starts to ache. Not on the outside, but deeper, beneath the surface. A kind of ache that makes you question your worth. It's when most people panic. They reach for noise, for distractions, for anything. That can pull them out of that silence, but not you. Because if you stay in that silence long enough, something starts to shift. The pain doesn't disappear. It sharpens. It teaches. Becomes a mirror. And for the first time, you begin to really see yourself, not the version they praised, not the mask you wore to survive you. The anger, it's still there. The hurt, still bleeding under the surface. But so is the strength that was buried. Beneath all the noise, isolation isn't a punishment. It's not exile. It's a lab. A place where the old version of you gets dismantled. Not by force, but by truth. This is where you ask the hard questions. What have I been tolerating? Have I been chasing that never loved me back? Who have I become in order to be accepted? The answers are uncomfortable, but they're yours. They're real. In that silence, you start building again, not louder, not for attention, but with precision. Clarity, you train your mind, you test your limits. You stop living for applause and start moving in silence for yourself. This isn't about proving them wrong. This is about becoming someone you don't want to run away from. Because when you step out of that lab, when the doors finally open, you won't be the same. You won't be chasing the room anymore. You'll become the room. You'll walk in without needing validation, because the real transformation didn't happen in front of the crowd. It happened when no one was watching. So if you're in that quiet season right now, stop fighting it. Use it. You're not being punished. You're being reprogrammed. And when you return, you won't need to announce it. They'll feel it. You've been chasing strength the way the world taught you to. Loud, visible, praised, you. Thought strength was in the shout, in the applause, in the moment when everyone finally sees you and says, you made it. But what about now? Now, when no one's watching? When your hands are tired, when your mind keeps folding in on itself, when you're not even sure what you're fighting for anymore, you get up, you move, you keep going, and still, no one claps. That's where most people break, not in failure, but in the quiet. Because the world doesn't prepare you for this. For the kind of strength that doesn't post well, that doesn't trend, doesn't get rewarded, just repeated, quietly, every damn day. You see, strength isn't a punch, it's pressure. It's you walking into the same storm with the same wounds and saying, not yet, I'm not done. It's you doing the hard thing without needing a witness. You've spent your life believing that power comes with recognition. But some of the strongest people you'll ever meet, they walk invisible. They cry in parking lots and wipe their face before anyone notices. They fight battles you'll never hear about. And they never brag, because the fight itself already took everything. You don't need to look strong. You need to be strong. And that's a different thing. Real strength isn't shiny. It's scarred. It's raw, unfiltered, inconvenient. It doesn't wait for perfect timing. It shows up when you don't want to. When you're exhausted, ashamed, angry, and still you rise. You're not weak because you feel pain. You're not broken because you're tired. And you're definitely not lost just because you've gone quiet. Sometimes the silence is where your real identity gets built. When no one is around to clap, it's when you finally stop performing. You stop pretending to be strong, and you start becoming it. Let that sink in. You're not pretending anymore. Surviving, adapting, transforming, every step. Forward in the dark is a kind of strength most people will never understand. And one day, you'll step out into the light. Not because you were chasing it, but because you became it. So stop measuring yourself by what the world sees. You are not loud, and that's okay. You are not seen yet, and that's okay. Because true power doesn't announce itself. It builds in the shadows, till silence can no longer hold it. You've been performing in a world that doesn't care if you win, only if you look like you're winning. You post something real, wait, for likes, for hearts, for someone, to validate that maybe, just maybe, you matter, but all you hear is silence, or worse. Noise from people who don't even know your name. They laugh from behind fake profiles. They type with boldness they've never earned. They create illusions and call it success. But when the screen turns off, they disappear. They have nothing. Just pixels pretending to be a life, and you. You start questioning if you're behind. If you're not loud enough, not flashy enough, not seen enough. You scroll through filtered victories and start comparing them to your private wars. But here's the truth you've been avoiding. Your real work is invisible. And that's why it's undeniable, because every single day you wake up and fight in silence. You build without applause. You struggle without status updates. You cry, and no one clicks like. But you still get up. You still train. You still show up. You still grow quietly, painfully, deeply. And that, ... that is reality. Not the bees, not the views, not the viral moments that burn bright and vanish in 24 hours. No, your reality is forged in your actions, in your decisions when no one is watching. In the discipline you keep, even when your name is never mentioned. They don't clap for your progress, because they can't see it. But one day they will, because your life, the one you're actually building, is louder than all their noise. Ask ChatGPT. You don't need to reply to comments anymore. You don't need to explain yourself in captions. You don't need to edit your pain into something digestible. You're not here to entertain the world. You're here to rise in it. Let them chase aesthetics. Let them post wins they never earned. You build substance. You build peace in your mind. You build strength in your body. You build calm in your heart. And you walk away from the digital theater, not because you're weak, but because you finally realized how strong you are. Because you don't need to be seen to be real. You don't need to be followed to be powerful. You just need to live your truth so fully that no amount of filters can compete with your presence. This is your moment. It's the one where you stop replying to noise and start answering with, your life, let it be quiet. Let it be slow. But let it be undeniably real. That's how they'll hear you. Not through your posts, but through your presence. And when they finally look up from their screens, they'll see you standing there, unshaken, unmatched, unapologetically real.